Today on Commander Replay, we kick off 5 straight days of Commander 18 videos with Arixmethes the Slumbering Isle. Watch as Arixmethes takes on Saskia, Brudiclad, and Urgoros. Find out who wins next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, I want to take a quick second to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. Today's video comes as voted on by the Patreon supporters as one of the creatures that they wanted to see most from Commander 2018. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Welcome back everyone, playing some Arixmethes Slumbering Isle. Take a look at our opening hand. There's no ramp in our opening hand. There's also no blue mana in our opening hand. I think I'm going to mulligan this. That is so much worse. I think we're going to 6. 39 lands in this deck, and can't believe we have to mulligan. Going to 6. Oh man, we go to the bad 5? That's as good as it's getting. Mulliganing all the way down to 5 cards. Ooh, forest on top. Do we need that forest? I'm going to say no because there's a lot of lands, and if we scry that away, eventually we should run into things like Cultivate and stuff like that. This might be a rough showing, though. So there's a Farseek. That's something. That can at least get us into some multicolor lands, which will be helpful. Also, that'll get us into our commander nice and quick, which should solve a lot of our mana issues. Then after that, we'll start looking for some card draw. Though, with Urgoros at the table, we might be doing a lot of discarding anyway. Turn 1 Soul Ring for the Saskia opponent, and they lay down, follow that up with a Signet, so they're going to have a really good turn 2. If they hit a white source, they can play Saskia. Turn 2, that'll be pretty good. So let's take a look at what we're playing today. We're playing Arixmethes Slumbering Isle. New card out of Commander 18. Well, newish, I guess. New to Magic Online. 2 green-blue for a 12/12. Enters the battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. As long as it has a slumber counter on it, it's a land and not a creature. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Arixmethes, and you can tap it to add green and a blue. So essentially it'll come in as a land that's tapped that adds green and a blue, and then when you remove all 5 slumber counters on it by casting spells, it'll become a huge 12/12 creature. That is a Kraken. So we've gone with the sea monster theme today. We've got all kinds of sea creatures in our deck, and there's actually a number of cards that care about the sea creature types, things like Whelming Wave, Crush of Tentacles, that sort of stuff. So there is a little bit of tribal synergy there. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun little card, so we'll see how things go. Probably not going to be the best showing this game in particular, just because we had to mulligan a bunch of times. But let's start with the Farseek first, since that'll get a land tapped, and we don't really have anything to do with the untapped mana at this juncture. So let's go for Breeding Pool tapped. And we'll pass the turn. So next turn we should be able to get our commander down, and then after that it'll just be a matter of trying to find some big sea creatures to play, and a little bit of card draw. So taking a look at what our opponents are playing, our first opponent is a Patreon supporter, Firemaker282, otherwise known as Ray, and he's piloting the really aggressive commander out of Commander 2016. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. Pretty good. A lot of ways to abuse that damage trigger. And they're going to start off with a Brutal Horde Chief. Oh, they did hit the white source. I totally would have just went for Saskia, personally. But maybe the... Oop. And the Brutal Horde Chief going to get Pongified. So it becomes an ape. It does get rid of the whenever a creature you control attacks ability, though, that was on the Brutal Horde Chief. So Brudiclad going to lay down a Captain Lannery Storm. Lannery Storm going to go on the attack. It does have haste, and it'll create a treasure token in the process. Fun little card that I've messed around with in Aurelia a bit. It's okay. There's a lot of really good 3-drops for Aurelia, so it's just a crowded converted mana cost slot. So it's all right, but I think there are things that perform it better. But interested to see what it can do in Brudiclad. That brings us to our second opponent, by the way, which is Brudiclad Telkor Engineer. Interesting little card. 4 blue-red for a 4/4. Creature tokens you control have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. Really interesting ability. I'm not sure exactly what you do with it yet. Brudiclad is on my list of things to build now that Commander 18 is on Magic Online, and I still have no idea what I'm actually going to do to build around it. So that'll be interesting. A Fell Specter coming in for the Urgoros opponent. So likely on Specter Tribal. Actually, I was looking at building Specter Tribal at one point, and I just kind of ran out of time and never had time to actually make a video on it. But I was actually checking out Specter Tribal with Urgoros, and yeah, sadly, opponent beat us to the punch on that one. Though I suppose it has been out for about 6 months, so... you know. Anyway, that's going to bring it back to our turn. We draw into a Hinterland Harmer. I was kind of hoping for not a land right there, but what can you do? Let's get this Reliquary Tower down just in case someone plays a wheel effect or something like that. And then we're going to play Arixmethes. Does make me sad that it comes into play tapped. Be pretty cool if we could get that mana right away, but probably also a little too strong. It would put it in the category of Sky Shroud Claim type of cards. The good news is, though, we do have this Thought Vessel that we can play next turn, which is a nice cheap spell to start ticking down counters on Arixmethes. Hopefully we can get another cheap little spell, maybe like a Ristic Study would be super sweet. And our final opponent, by the way, Urgoros, the empty one, 4 black for a 4/3 legendary Specter. It has flying, and it says, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card at random. If the player can't, you draw a card. So it is a legendary Specter. I haven't seen a lot of Urgoros, but because I was looking at it at one point in time, I've seen basically 2 ways to go with it. Either you can make a build around me mono black discard type of deck, or you can just go Spectre Tribal, and it looks like our opponent might be on the Spectre Tribal plan, so that's a lot of fun, except for the fact that no one's going to have any cards in hand. And Saskia coming into play, choosing the Brudiclad opponent. Interesting. Makes sense since they'll probably be trying to make a lot of tokens, and tokens generally mean that it's harder to get through with combat damage, especially if you don't have like big trampoline type of creatures. And Saskia gonna hit us one time. Yep, nothing we can do about it. So that damage will reflect over to the Brudiclad as well. So we're at 37, 3 commander, Brudiclad down to 32. Ooh, they've been taking some punches, huh? As far as our deck is concerned, so I'm doing the Sea Creatures thing. I had actually tried to build a Sea Creatures deck with Slyn Voda a while back, and it's not that I couldn't make it work, I just didn't really have the time to put into it. I'm sure it could get there if I spent enough time doing it, but I took a lot of the stuff going on in that deck, ported it over to this deck, so now we have a Simic Sea Creatures deck, and obviously the green ramp is going to help a lot when you're trying to cast big, expensive stuff. But the other way that I think you could potentially build around Arixmethes is building it more like a Voltron deck, where you get it into play, and then, Captain Land Restore coming into us, trying to get that treasure token, putting a little more damage on us, sure. But anyway, so you could build like a Voltron deck with it, where you get Arixmethes down, you play a bunch of cheap spells, get all the counters off of it, and then just put... Basically, you want like Trample, Inquisitor's Flail, that sort of stuff, and you'll be off to the races damage-wise. So, if I have some time, I want to check out that build for Arixmethes as well. Right now, I'm just in love with the flavor of this card. Like, the fact that it's a land that turns into a creature, like an island that turns into a creature, is pretty sweet. That's a Liliana Spectre coming into play, so each player is going to have to discard a card. How bad do we need Homeward Path? There's a blue player at the table. How much colored mana do we have? We have 1, 2, 3 blue sources, 2 green sources. I think we're going to get rid of the Hinterland Harbor. I guess the Arixmethes makes... Yeah, we'll get rid of the Hinterland Harbor. Our colors seem to be okay. We'd rather have that utility just in case anyone wants to steal our stuff. Never known that's going to happen. Also, we have really big creatures. Big creatures are generally high priority targets for killing or stealing, so people try to steal our stuff. Homeward Path, great way to get it back. Opponent laid down a Waste Knot, by the way, and that's going to trigger Waste Knot 3 times. And that's also going to trigger this Fel Spectre 3 times. That seems pretty good. So, Fel Spectre, not bad. A creature with a discard ability and Midgame, all in one. Pretty good. Opponent gets 4 extra mana and draws a card. Asylum Visitor coming down for our opponent. So maybe not strict Spectre Tribal. There's only so many Spectres, I forget. I did look it up at one point. There aren't tons and tons of them. There might be like, if I'm remembering right, 20 or 25, and not all of them are super playable. Also, not all of them are in colors. Blazing Spectre is black-red, and the, Blizzard Spectre is black-blue. We draw a Verdant Catacombs. We'll lay down the Homeward Path. Yeah, now we're at the part of the game where we need to be drawing not lands, but we're going to lay down this Thought Vessel. That's going to take a counter off of the Arixmethes. Would love to see a Wheel of Fortune out of one of these 2 red opponents. But yeah, we don't have much else going on. The Mulligan hitting us hard. Board Wipe or Wheel Effect would both be very good right here. Demonic Tutor for the Saskia opponent. Oh hey, that's an Odric Master Tactician. That's a pretty good one. They're still 1 creature short. They'll need an additional creature before that becomes super relevant. But that ability is really, really good if they're attacking with 4 creatures. Ooh, Saskia is sending both things into the Brudiclad. That's going to be some damage. Hope Brudiclad brought a Blasphemous Act. That would be super nice. So they take the hit, they get the Saskia triggers. That puts them down to 18. Wow. I forgot how fast Saskia can be. Thing just piles damage on. Opponent lays down a Trail of Evidence. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, investigate. Ooh, fun. I don't remember that card. Blasphemous Act? Not a Blasphemous Act. Mishra's Self-Replicator. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a token that's a copy of Mishra's Self-Replicator. If it wasn't a 2/2 for 5 mana, that would be so much more helpful. The fact that it is a 2/2 for 5 mana makes it not the best. Feels like a Magic card of old, where you see 5 and 6 mana 2/2s. Yep, opponent swinging at us with the Captain Lannery Storm. Have at it. Here comes Urgoros. What does Swan Song hit? Enchantments, instants, and sorceries. No attacks from the Spectre opponent. Interesting. You could use a big draw right here. Slin Voda is something. Drop down this land. How much mana do we have? 7, 8, 9. Oh, we're one short of kicked Slin Voda. Disappointing. Well, I guess with... I don't know that we necessarily want to be bouncing all these Specters. Liliana Spectre, I mean, bouncing the other stuff seems good, but I think we're just going for Slin Voda not kicked right here. It will give us a nice blocker, if nothing else. So, and I guess we can leave up the Swan Song, and that's going to put Arixmethes down to 3 counters. I would love to see a Rishkar's Expertise off the top. That would make me so happy. Interesting that there was a period of time, maybe like 10 years ago, where they said from a design standpoint they really wanted to get away from the sea creatures kind of stuff because Magic is largely a land-based battle. But yeah, periodically they still sneak in some of these Leviathans and things, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like they've been too strict on that policy. That's an Eternal Witness. Let's see what that gets back. Demonic Tutor, probably. I'm just going to cast a Demonic Tutor. I think I'm actually going to counter that. So Crack the Verdant Catacombs, just because I want to get rid of this card because we'll probably end up discarding it if we don't. I also want to get this counter off of Arixmethes, so we'll counter that. Arixmethes down to 2 counters. Opponent gets a bird out of the deal. Opponent just going at that Brudiclad really hard. But we're in a position now where, like, there's enough stuff on board that someone is going to want to play a board wipe. So, is Brudiclad dead? Brudiclad is dead. So, really didn't get a good look at what Brudiclad can actually do. Yeah, the Spectre opponent is heavily incentivized to play a board wipe right here. Being that they're mono black, always a reasonable chance of tutor into board wipe kind of stuff. Or they may already just be sitting on one, but we'll see how this goes. Well, unfortunately, opponent will get to draw an extra card with the Asylum Visitor. But they will be sending the Urgoros into the Saskia opponent. They're going to block with the bird. Sure. Opponent's going to crack the Mind Stone. Going to play an Unnerve. Each opponent discards 2 cards. Fine by me. That does trigger Waste Not and Fel Spectre a couple times. And like I said, that's why I wanted to burn that Swan Song before we lost it. There is a very big lack of flying in our deck, which is going to make us not super well suited to fighting through the Specters here. So opponent's going to get Asylum Visitor because we have no cards in hand. There's a Divining Top. That's something. So let's get that down. Take a look. Ooh, that'll be really good with the Arixmethes too because it is cheap and we can keep putting it back on top and doing all that sort of stuff. So let's take a look at the top. We could use something big right here. Land, Mana Drain. Not exactly where I wanted to be, but I guess that's where we are. We will draw the Mana Drain if we need to, should something really problematic pop its way out. Don't love the fact that there's 2 lands that we can't really, like, shuffle away. Really don't need any more lands at this juncture. Asylum Visitor will trigger again for the Urgoros opponent. Saskia does have 4 creatures ready to attack, though, which means that they can start using this Odric ability, and that ability is really good. Depending on how they want to do it, they could probably just about wipe out the Spectre opponent if they wanted to. Because you can choose how they block, which means they can set up a bunch of really bad blocks for the Spectre opponent. Savage Ventmaw, you say? It's a creature. It's not great, but it's a flyer. Would get a lot of mana off of the Mana Drain, but I don't know. It's not really exciting me. Like, if I knew we had big plays coming after the Mana Drain, it might be a little more enticing, but... So opponent going on the offensive. Odric will trigger, and they're sending everything into the Odric. Sounds good to me. And here comes the block, and yup, opponent's about to get wiped. So this is good. Urgoros losing most of their creatures in this combat, and this is good because this puts the mono black player into a spot where they want to be casting a board wipe now, and that's really what we'd like to see. And being that Saskia has no cards in hand, there'll be not much of a threat after a board wipe. Vampiric Tutor, you say? Well, let that resolve. Unfortunately, they won't be able to draw whatever they are looking for because no one has any cards that can be discarded with Waste Not. Urgoros swinging into us. Sure, do what you gotta do. Oh, yeah, they can draw a card. Okay. So hopefully that's the board wipe. Plays down an Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Yes, Languish. Oh, that's the best too. That kills all of our opponent's stuff and doesn't kill any of ours. Yeah, Slin Voda's still alive. Survives the Languish. Loving that. All right, we got a game now. So we draw into the Mana Drain. We're going to take another peek with the Divining Top. 3 lands. Rough. But what we can do, we're going to put the Alchemist Refuge on top. We're going to draw with... actually, no, that doesn't work. I probably should have drew at the end step. That way Divining Top was back on top. And then we could have played a spell and got down to the attacking with Arixmethes. So we'll send Slinvoda into the Specter opponent. That hits for 8. They go down to 23. That's a nice little hit right there. I forgot to draw with Divining Top and play the land. That's what I was meaning to do. But I did not. Opponent's going to play a Zendikar. Oof, Zendikar Resurgent, huh? That is a very good Magic card. I'm going to let it resolve, though. That might be the wrong call right there. Part of me, I'm more worried about what the mono black opponent can do, because they have a bunch of cards in hand. Saskia is living off the top, and I get that they can draw more cards with Zendikar Resurgent. Opponent's gonna, it's not ideal. They're gonna discard with the Gyre Reach. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. So we're gonna draw a card. We'll draw into the land. Could have rearranged that first, so we got rid of one of the basics. Oops. Discard the Alchemist Refuge. Waste Not will trigger. So playing a little bit sloppy the last turn or two. Could have set that Divining Top up better. We could have attacked with the Arixmethes last turn, and that is a lot of damage to go unblocked. Vampire Nighthawk, interesting. Means we're gonna lose something. It's not great. Opponent has 1 floating plus 5. They don't have enough to recast their commander. I think we get rid of the Nighthawk. Nighthawk can block us a little bit too profitably for my liking. So pull the last counter off of Arixmethes. It is now a creature, a giant 12/12. There's some boots. There's a Whisper Silk Cloak. That's also pretty good. So we've got a cool 20 damage on board. That's pretty sweet, right? We draw into a forest. Let's play the Divining Top. Take a look with the Divining Top. Rapid Hybridization is a card. We might be needing that. Put that on top. Play the forest. Who wants 20 damage? I think it's got to be Saskia right here. Now that Urgoros has kind of emptied their hand out, yeah, there's some stuff that we have to be careful of, but nothing too scary left, which makes me feel good. So Saskia takes the big hit, takes 12 commander damage, goes down to 12 life. Man, this thing is huge. So we're going to recast Saskia, and they'll get a draw with Zendikar Resurgent. See who they pick. They might pick us because we have a lot of life, but we'll see. Yep, they choose us. There's a Signet. Yeah, that's fine. Saskia going to swing into the Urgoros opponent. Okay. They'll be at 20 exactly, which means if we can remove any of their blockers, then we have exactly 20 damage. So that seems good. We'll ding us for a little bit, though. So we take 3. Down to 23. Opponent's down to 20. I'm assuming that opponent's play is to recast their commander and try to draw a card. And the question is, do they do that? Do I even care? So they play land. It's a Westvale Abbey. That's a fun one. Opponent's going to use the Gyre Reach ability. We're going to rearrange the top of our library. Go land, Rapid Hybridization, land. Discard the land. Opponent will get some additional mana. Opponent gets a zombie. That's the thing I was trying to avoid. Opponent's going to shoot the Saskia. That's an interesting target to shoot, given what we have on board. Although, I guess that does mean that, yeah, they have no blockers, so now we just killed them. That's cool. So Saskia into a bad spot. Opponent's going to put boots on the zombie. Yeah, that's fine. Not all worried about that. Didn't recast their commander. They did get a blocker, though. Yeah, if they casted their commander, they're incentivized to swing, which means they're not leaving back a blocker, but yeah. Opponent's just going to tap out and pass. All right. Means we get a crack at it. We should take another look with the Divining Top since we have looted since the last time we looked. Quicksilver Amulet. Nope, don't need that right now. So back to our turn. We untap. There's the Rapid Hybridization. Let's go to combat. Arixmethes into the Saskia and Slinvoda into the Specter opponents. Opponent blocks just like I expected. Saskia goes down 24 commander damage. 2 hits from Arixmethes. Sometimes being huge is all it takes. Wow. Let's take another look with Divining Top. Garrick is perfect for right now. So, Quicksilver Amulet, Island. Finally hitting something. Draw with the Divining Top. Play the Garrick. So, once Arixmethes is active, all of these draw equal to the greatest power of creatures cards are really good. And we do have Reliquary Tower down, so life just got really good for us. We draw many things. Opponent has 0 cards in hand. Yeah, they in trouble. They in real trouble. Did we play a land already? We did not. Recast the Divining Top. And I'm just going to sit on the Rapid Hybridization at this point. I assume opponent will probably try to recast their commander. Opponent's going to loot. We'll discard. Let's get rid of a fetch land. Ooh, Rishkar's Expertise, even better. Now we're rolling. Hymn to Turak, 2 cards at random. Yep, nothing we can do about that. Well, I guess we could take a peek with Divining Top. Nah, whatever. Likely to hit lands anyway. They hit the 2 best. Thassa and Rishkar's Expertise. Really? Oh, man. At least we still have the Rapid Hybridization. There's a zombie that will buy opponent some time. Oh, man, it would have been insane to follow up the massive card draw with the Rishkar's Expertise. Opponent's going to create a Cleric with the Westvale Abbey. Sure. We do not have trample currently, so that's a thing. Oh, 3 lands on top. Rogue's Passage is a card, though. Yeah, put Rogue's Passage on top. So we draw the Rogue's Passage, play the Rogue's Passage, make our commander unblockable. I am going to attack with the Slinvoda because they do have to block it, and if we keep the creature count down, that means that they can't flip into Ormondal. Attacking with it will act as creature removal against all the tokens and should prevent the flipping of Ormondal. Opponent goes down to 7, so I'm going to play the Reclamation Sage, get rid of the Waste Knot. Any comeback that our opponent is going to try to mount is probably going to start with that Waste Knot, so let's get rid of that. Then we just sit on the Rapid Hybridization, and I'm feeling really good about where we're at. Board wipe could be troublesome, but... Ooh, Maya Jin of Knight's Reach. Did not count on that. Let's take a look with the Divining Top. Pact Negation off the top? Nope. Put the Trigon Predator back on top. 2 lands beneath it. I guess we're about to lose our hand. So, opponent removes the counter. Each opponent, we're going to discard our hand. We will shoot the Maya Jin in response to the counter being removed. So, they get a Frog Lizard out of the deal. We discard our entire hand. Boo. Felt so good drawing 12 cards. Especially after how low we were from the Mulligan through most of the game. We really didn't even lay down a Cultivate or anything like that. That kind of, makes up card advantage that way. So we'll block opponent's zombie, keep that creature count nice and low. And all we have to do now is, opponent doesn't even have any blockers, so we just have to make Arixmethes unblockable and send it in. There's the Trigon Predator. Go to combat. Send in the Slumbering Isle. Opponent says, maybe you should have killed the 12/12 instead of my blocker. Yeah, if they shot Arixmethes, that would have slowed us down. That would have prevented us from being able to draw 12 cards. We could have still drawn 8 with Slinvoda, which I guess is still pretty good. But it would have taken us a while to get Arixmethes back. So that's something to think about. You probably want to keep Arixmethes really protected. Lots of boots, lots of hexproof, stuff like that, so opponents can't shoot it down because it's going to take you a while to recover if that happens. So there it is. Arixmethes getting there. Who thought we were going to win this match 5 turns ago? Because I sure didn't think we were. Sometimes you just got to hang tough and hope your opponents do the right thing. Sometimes you can finagle a win out of it. Opponents had a lot committed to the board nice and early, so sets up that board wipe really well. Arixmethes does a good job of dodging board wipes, especially ones that care about toughness, because it's going to be in land form for a while, so that really helped us out a lot. The Languish helped a lot, kept our Slinvoda alive, so nice play to clear out our opponents right there, but we still had stuff left. One-sided board wipes usually win games, and that's basically what happened. We had both of our big creatures able to survive through that Languish, so that was that. Yeah, we had such a bad start. I can't believe we won that game. Our start was atrocious. Mulligan down to 5, and still being able to get there with our 12/12. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.